Welcome, everyone, to this very special first ever episode of Money with Soul, where I am going to host the conversation, but that is not what is going to happen in the future because today I being Sarah Hawley, should introduce myself first, I suppose. I am interviewing Pereira, who is the founder of Soul Money and will be the host of the Money with Soul podcast. But I'm like super honored to be working on this project with you as an advisor and someone who's just like extremely passionate about money with soul, essentially. So, yeah, I'm really excited to have this conversation with you today to just kind of introduce soul money and you to the world and share with people what they're going to be able to expect from not only this podcast, but the whole kind of soul money course and community and everything that you're building. So, yeah, I'm excited to be here. I'm excited for what we are creating together that has really birthed from your genius. But a little bit of a backstory is that we have known each other for almost 20 years. And yeah, I mean, do you want to just jump in and tell us a little bit about who you are now? And, we can also go back into who we were when we first met.
Yeah, cool. So I'm so excited to start this journey of money with soul. I think the idea behind the podcast is really just to share some of the philosophies of where soul money is and how it's coming into the world. And I think it's important for people to sort of connect with that because there's so much in this space. And I think there's a lot of information, but a lack of clarity. So it's really, yeah, super cool. And I love working with you, Sarah. So it's always fun to have people that help create this space, and that's what you've done. So it's awesome. My background is in financial planning and a lot of money stuff, and I guess the other side of my journey is around yoga teaching and always having that spiritual sort of connection ever since I was a really, really little. And so it's been a journey for me. And I think that soul money has been born out of a changing paradigm with money and a changing need for people to feel aligned to how they bring money into their life and how they live their life. So I think in the past it's a lot about you have this goal or this money objective, and then the money becomes the objective, and then at some point in the future you become free when you've got enough money. And that paradigm just isn't working, and I think, and we see it a lot, and I see it in myself, it doesn't actually work. And so money with soul and is really about the having the connection with who you are and being in the world as you are, and that the wealth and the money that you build is in alignment with that and how you show up.
Mhm. Yeah, like something that comes to me is the idea of financial freedom being something that we pursue to one day get is kind of a fallacy. And true financial freedom is to feel free in this moment
Yeah.
in our relationship with money as a resource in our life. And that comes through, many different ways. Like the feeling of freedom with money can come from having a good cash flow system set up, but it can also come from exploring and untying our relationships with money, our money stories. It can come from recognizing money as one of many resources that we have. It can come from a lot of things and a combination of things. I think it's kind of like cleaning up every aspect of how we relate with money creates that freedom now,
Yeah, that's
versus
it.
this idea that when we have X amount of dollars, we're then going to be free, and that's always going to be dangling in the future, and you never really get there.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not even just money, it's everything. So it's objects, it's places, all of these things that you think that at some point you sacrifice the now for some future that doesn't exist. And when you start to see that the now is the future, it all exists here and now. That's when we start to see, okay, it's actually removing those blocks, like getting rid of the stuff that's in your way to feel what you are here to feel right here. And so that's sort of like
Hmm.
where I came to in my money story, realizing that no amount of like money is really an energy as well. Like that's something that it represents. You can only hold and have as much money as that you feel worthy of. And when you understand that your beliefs about who you are actually impact how much money you can bring into your life, then you start, that's really cool. And you know, you're in complete control. And then you start to seek, like we've started in our life, my family, my wife, my kids, we're seeking out the things that feel aligned to where we want, but for now. So it's not about how much money we have, it's about who we are, how we show up, what our lifestyle is, and that freedom that comes when obviously you have to have enough money to support you, but it's about freeing that worry and having that automated so that you can actually, you know, start to look at, am I showing up in the right way? Am I doing the right things? Have I got enough fulfillment in my life here and now, and what needs to change?
Hmm. So it's been quite a journey to get here for both of us, I would say. We met
Yeah, for
almost
sure.
20 years ago. You were Amy Commell at the time, and I was Sarah Regalhuth. And so, you know, some people in the financial services world, or even just in people in Australia who are engaged with money, might even know us under our former names. You now go by Ammie Pereira, and I'm Sarah Hawley. But way back when we were in our 20s, early 20s, we were working together in my dad's financial services business,
Yeah, that's
actually.
right.
And I remember back then, um, I had shut down all my spirituality at that point. I had made a decision that there was no such thing as being successful and being spiritual. So I was completely had turned it all off, and I was very much in the material 3D, pursuing success through business, through entrepreneurship, through finance. You were, I think, in both worlds much more. So you were working in financial services with me, but you were very embodied in your spirituality, like probably more so, I think. I think it was like that was really more of who you were, from my perspective at least. And I used to like tease you about it sometimes. And, you know, you were very like spiritual and into yoga and all that sort of stuff. And I was only teasing you because of my own denial of self, obviously. But like, I remember like who you were. And I think in reality, like the world just wasn't ready for all of that at that time. And then if I think about both of our journeys, if I'm not mistaken, we both left financial services.
Yeah,
You did as well, right? You
yeah.
did have a period out. Yeah. So you were out of financial services and you went fully into like yoga and fitness and things like that. And you can tell the story. And I sold my last financial services firm in 2018. So I've been out for 7 years. Um, and, you know, I think the world changed in 2020. I think, um, I don't, it's hard to put words around what has happened, but it seems like people are much more interested in like creating a bridge between their spiritual life and this kind of 3D life that we live, this very physical plane that we're on. Um, and I think you're like the perfect person in a way to hold this space and create this container and this framework and this philosophy that you're bringing to people, because you've been walking this path a long time and you've gone on that journey to integrate it for yourself. I'd love to just hear, like, that's obviously my perspective of your journey and stuff, but how has that been for you?
Yeah, I think I feel as though in life we get given the challenges that we like if you ask yourself, if you want to be truthful, you know, life will give you all of the places where you're not truthful, if that makes sense. Like it's like the mirror
Hmm.
effect of what we see in the world is what we actually need to be the person that we want to be. And I think that the journey's actually not been all roses and, you know, fantastic for me in the sense that like that uncertainty of what am I actually doing has always been in the back of my mind. Like, and I've always been a seeker. if you would say that, like always wanting to get somewhere, to seek more, to become more, to be this person that, you know, is the enlightened one. And I realized I gave up financial services, you know, just moving up the ladder into sort of corporate, and realizing that it's actually not all it's cracked up to be, you know, having a big role and doing all managing teams and stuff. It's just not really it. And then decided to leave because I always thought in the back of my mind that yoga teaching and fitness was the be all and end all. And that's where I wanted to land. That was my, you know, my dream was to have that. And then when my sister and I started a yoga studio and fitness studio in 2018, actually. So funny that you sold your
Hmm.
business in 2018.
Oh,
That's
wow. Yeah.
yeah. We started this studio, and look, I think the thing with anything in life is you have to love your day to day, and I just realized like that wasn't the love that I had. I love yoga and I love teaching and I love all those things, but the day to day of running a yoga business and a fitness studio just wasn't the passion. That it didn't fulfill me the way that I thought it would. And so when COVID hit and we had to close the studio, we sort of, it's like I wanted to go back into financial planning, and I wanted to do it from a client perspective. I've always done the business side of the financial planning industry. So helping businesses, you know, doing
Hmm.
all the processes and back office stuff, like licensee stuff. And I wanted to do the client side. So that's where I sort of landed, and I started back at the bottom doing paraplanning and going out and look, I think it's still really like important to seek advice with finances when you need help. Um, but what the journey that I came to in my, I sort of like at the end of giving up my business, sort of stepped away from yoga completely. Like I just felt really burnt out from it all. Like it just, and I didn't really, I just sort of stepped away from all of the spiritual stuff because I felt like I'd been pursuing spiritual enlightenment my whole life. And it felt like there's as much ego, or like they talk about the spiritual ego. There's as much ego in
Hmm.
that as there is in finance and working in a big, you know, big four bank. Like it's the same, but just it's got a different label. It's got a different, you know, different terminology, but it's essentially the same. And I just felt sick of the seeking in a way, and just sort of like gave it all away.
Hmm.
And then having a family, getting married, and finding, you know, like even the journey of marrying a woman in my life was also a big stepping onto my platform. Like I always talk about this, stepping onto your platform and finding, you know, your space. That was a big journey for me in itself, and really of shedding the idea of who I had to be to become who I really am. That journey sort of just started peeling back some of the layers of the identity that I had built around myself, that safety net that I'd always had. And, you know, like I think with regards to the money side, like it was really only, and this money soul, it was really only after going on maternity leave with um my second child, Jordan, I started to really feel called to do something in money coaching, you know, and I really thought, and combining my passion for the fitness side and the financial planning side, and just seeing the impact that money coaching has on people's lives, of getting in charge of your finances or in charge of your cash flow. It's really, and even for me, and you know, like we don't want to delve too much into my money story. I don't want to go there too much, but you know, coming from a background of high debt cycling, of always spending more than you had, even when I had high incomes, that's an energy. And I think that's where, you know, coming out of that debt cycle and coming out of living outside of your means really was teaching me, even in financial planning and knowing all the stuff, but still living in a different way. You know, like that was a big journey that I also went on, which is my money story, of really learning that value comes from your energy. not from things and not from having, like the label, like the clothes that have certain labels or the car that's got a certain label. Yeah, those things are nice, but that's not, if you tie your identity to those, it really doesn't fulfill you the way that, say, like not spending outside, like when you start to not spend outside what you have, the power of that energy that just become like when you get that
Mm-hmm.
surplus, like that's what we talk about in soul money, is the sacred surplus, because it's a representation of your energy, so like there's a lot going on here, but I I feel like coming back to how soul money was born, I started off, and I remember like consulting with you about this. I think, gosh, what is it, 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, and it was all about money fitness, because I was thinking I'm going to do like a boot camp where to help people, um, like just get fit, money fit. Like we see this a lot in the industry, like this money fitness, which is really cool. Like that's awesome. But it just as as I started to develop this product, or it just really felt like I was holding back what is in me always, which is that spiritual heart that I've always had. Like it's always been there for me. It's always been something that is me, is the energy of my heart and the energy of yoga. And when I say yoga, I mean like that connection to the broader perspective, not yoga in the asana practice that people think of when they talk about yoga. Talking more about like this sense of connection to the universe, the energy of the universe is yoga. It's union, and then we're represented in this body, and so there's both, and that's also like part of the conflict we have, is we feel like we have to be one or the other, but the union that we have between two is really stepping into a place where we are unlimited, but we're also a human being having a human experience. We're not a Buddha sitting in a paddock meditating for hours on end. We're living this life through this body, and learning the experiences of having the union to the universe. And so
Mm-hmm.
it was a bit of a journey, and I think it was a little bit scary for me to open that side up in a place where finances exist, because I think for my whole life I've had money on one side and my spiritual yoga connection thing happening on another, and never really bridged that gap. And that's what soul money is about, bridging that gap between your heart and your head, and really turning off that idea that money is an object that we obtain. It is really a representation of who we are, and that when we show up for ourselves, we show up for that flow. And so that's sort of where soul
Mm-hmm.
money was born. And that was the point that we both just got really excited, I think, about this
Yeah.
concept, because it's the new paradigm, and I think a lot of people are feeling it, and it's
Mm-hmm.
really about bringing structure to this place where it feels a bit difficult to navigate. I know that talking to people, it's like, you might feel something. You might feel like your job's not fulfilling, or you might feel like, money is weight for you. I felt like that. I felt like, until I started really feeling the energy of money, of investing, and feeling as though we're stewarding money, which comes from that sacred surplus. Like we cannot do that without a surplus. Like
Mm-hmm.
we cannot do that without really knowing exactly where our energy's flowing, which is we talk about this budget, but it's the soul set budget, because it's about knowing the buckets, knowing where our energy is flowing, and what we're spending our energy on. Because I can tell you, if we're spending more than we earn, that's an energy deficit, and that's what creates stress and pressure. And even having too
Mm-hmm.
much debt in your life can create an energy deficit. And it might not be, some people could have a lot of debt and not have that, like it's what kind of debt that you have. And so I'm super super excited that we have found this place of, where the energy sits, or where the structure and the energy sits, if that makes sense. It's like the
Yeah, it does. And I think like the word steward, I think, is just such a powerful word to sit with
Absolutely.
and then start to integrate into the different areas of your life. Because what was coming up for me when you were talking about the sacred surplus is like I started thinking about, other energy sources we have and other areas where I was just having this relatable journey. And I was thinking about sexual energy. And, I've been on a journey of like, where I was seeking validation and affirmation from men, and I was valuing myself as this young, beautiful maiden and like sexual being and needing that affirmation from others. So I was like spending all this sexual energy to try to get validation, to know that I'm enough, to know that I'm okay. And, had to go on a journey of alchemizing that and understanding how that energy works. And I'm in a place now of celibacy. And I think about it a lot because my sexual energy is like turned off in that trill sense where I'm not like, I did not expect to be going here in this podcast, but where I'm not like horny and turned on, but like
We'll go anywhere
actually,
in this podcast.
yeah, but actually, like where I see my sexual energy right now, that creative life force energy is very active, actually, but it's being channeled into like the creations that I'm having, namely in business. And the way that I'm stewarding that energy is very like, it feels very replenishing. And now that I'm like protecting that energy and treating it as it is the sacred energy. I mean, having children for me completely shifted the way that I think about that energy and that life force and who we are as women and what our womb space and our yonis and that actually like births into the world, and we birth literal life. Um, all of a sudden, like everything about the way that I see that source of energy has shifted, and I will not exchange it with people in a way, the ways that I used to. It's like shocking to me almost now to think about that.
Yeah.
But it was just driven from that place that was like seeking, like you were talking about. And that seeking can come, like you said, in the spiritual sense, in the sexual sense, in the validation. It can come financially, seeking more assets or more material things. Like when we're seeking and expending all of that energy, thinking that if we expend that energy to get the thing, we're going to feel a certain way, we're not stewarding. Like that's a whole
No.
different experience when we're actually like feeling the energy, whether it's money or like just our inner knowing, our yes or our no, our connection with somebody or some family energy, the constellations that we're in our businesses, in anything, when we're feeling that everything is energetic and we're tapping into like, is this expanding me or is this contracting me? And we
Yeah,
start to
absolutely.
steward responsibly what we're saying yes to, what we're saying no to, how we're showing up, when we're tending to ourselves and resting. Like if we're just talking about our very physical energy, right? Like when we're
Yeah,
going
that's
and
right.
resting because that's what we need, when we're going and doing a workout because that's actually going to charge us up. Like same thing with fitness. We can be punishing ourselves at the gym every day for this ideal perfect body, thinking that one day we're going to feel amazing, when actually, like, if I know myself, I need a lot of rest. Like I'm a projector in human design. I'm not designed to go to the gym all day, every day. I'm also a woman. Like I have a 28-day cycle, like starting
Absolutely.
to tend to all of these aspects in that way. And I love that money can just be a metaphorical exploration of anything. It's, we what we can learn in stewarding money, we can learn in stewarding any other area of our life.
Yeah, I think the other thing that I got when you were talking then, which I think is part of what we have to overcome, is that when we're born into a place, into a society, into a family. We are born into a set of energy patterns and energy beliefs that we are given within that. And so it's something that when you're born, that's because by your design, that is something that you have to overcome for yourself. regardless of whether it's positive or negative, we have to determine whether it is authentically where we're here to be, or if it's something that we have to overcome. And when we see that the beliefs and the ideas and the structures that we're given are not ours, they're given to us, then you can start to like look at that and be like, is this serving me right now? And I think the biggest thing for me is that in life, it's when you're uneasy or when you're being triggered or when you've got these things coming up that's showing you that something's not authentic there. There's something that needs to be looked at. And it's not about like constantly self criticizing, because that is also often coming from that set of old beliefs that we've been given. And so for me in my journey, it's about, it's making relationship or friendship with that part of me that I've been given to say, I acknowledge you, you are great. Like that is, you've given me these things to protect me because of what we believe is to be true. But the beliefs those truths that we get given, or that when we're little, we see them as our truths, when in reality, they're just a way of seeing the world. And so it's sort of like, I think there comes a time, and I don't know if it's motherhood or if it's this point, it's just like you start questioning everything. Like for me, I started like things didn't serve me. And then it was like, well, what is that? Like, what does that actually mean? And what is it I really want to be? And who do I really want to be? And it's the same as when I set up this idea about this, fitness with money, and it just wasn't serving that part of me that really now is coming through. When you reconnecting to that place, you can't lie like to it like the energy that is you cannot lie. And so the more that you're in alignment with that, the more painful being out of alignment is. So I don't know about for
Mm-hmm.
you, but like when you're in alignment with the flow of your energy and the broader perspective of you, because this is the other thing that soul money has taught me, is that and this was a big turning point for me. What you are seeking is seeking you. And when you actually really,
Mm-hmm.
like, I know this is the problem with a lot of like spiritual teachings or self-development, is they're all words. But when we actually even just take a couple of them and start to really let them sit in you and really understand them from what they are representing, which is an energy form in you, because they're just pointers, you start to realize, when you realize everything that you are seeking is seeking you, you can sort of, I just was able to just like let go of like,
Mm-hmm.
as someone that's always wanted to hold control. And this comes from money, from wealth, from A to B points, from feeling like we have to be in control to get where we're going. But like when you start to unravel that, and because things don't go to plan, and you end up, like the business that we had with the fitness and yoga didn't go to plan during COVID, and you like things don't go to plan, and there's a reason for that. And then when you start to trust that reasoning, life becomes just a lot easier. And I feel as though that's part of the soul money philosophy is, that understand that it is all working out. Like, and it's not just words, it actually all is working out. Everything is working out for you. And when you can trust that and go, okay, there's a reason that this didn't come through, this job didn't come, whatever, like it is, we start to lean into a trust-based philosophy rather than a control-based philosophy, which is that old paradigm of, if you work hard, you will get rewarded, which is not true ever. Like, you can work as hard as
Yeah.
you like. The rewards may be there, but they might not be what you wanted in the first place, really. It's just the idea of what that
Yeah, we have
reward's
to
going to be.
question what that reward really is. Yeah, like does it actually feel good to get the thing that is being promised? Because the reward is
Yeah.
intrinsic. Like it's only a reward if it actually feels good in your body and gives you peace.
But if you sacrifice your whole life for it, does that actually, is it going to be all that it's cracked up to be? It might be good for a minute or two, and then it's like, okay, what's next? It's always this what's next. And, like society and the world is designed to keep asking what's next, to keep pursuing, to keep wanting more things. But when we start to uncut, like anchor back into, oh no, it's actually how I feel now is my biggest indicator of what I'm creating in my life. How I actually feel is energetically representing what I'm attracting to me in the future. And when you really understand that, and you really start to go, I don't want to feel bad. I mean, it's not about not about acknowledging when things feel shitty, but it's just about understanding that your energy is a vibration, and everything in this world is a
Hmm.
vibration. And so you are in charge of your vibration always, which means you're always in control of what you're attracting. And even if something is perceived as being not ideal, where is that coming from? Because I know for me, like I've just had this experience where I thought I wanted something, and I don't have to do, it's more the principles, but I thought I wanted something and I was set out to achieve this one thing. And then I'm starting to get to that place and it's like it's actually not what I wanted. But am I able to let it go, because the fixation of getting that then means that, I have to let that fixation go of that identity of what, that thing is. And I just went, this is what happens when you start to really lean into your soul money map, or your,
Hmm.
where you're really meant to be. It won't lie, and it feels good to lean into that and let things go, and go, you know what, it doesn't matter that I wanted that for a lot of times, like that, a long time. Now I don't really want it anymore, and I'm not going to get fixated on it.
Yeah. Like
Which,
the person that I was wanted something and I'm no longer that person. And the only thing that can tell me that is how I feel. It's
yeah, that's right.
like I
But
have
then, you
to
know what,
pay
this
attention always.
the interesting thing with how it feels, right, is that the ego is really good at making things feel bad. Like, it's also like your fear can drive your intuition. So then you've got to work out,
Hmm.
is this my fear of getting that thing? Because that would, like that means certain things. Or is it my heart saying you don't need that? Like, you have to work out how to decipher that, which is it's really being tuned to what is coming from a loving place, what is coming from that fear place, because they both can look the same. They both can give you that same sensation of, no, this isn't it, or this is it. And I think it's something that it can trip you up, and no matter what.
Yeah, I feel like it's a journey always. And like I mean, I think we get better and better at it. And I don't have the expectation that I'll be perfect all the time. It's almost like, my body, my being is like a tuning fork. And I'm always able to tap in and feel that energy and that vibration. And like sometimes I still ignore it, sometimes I still say yes to something that isn't quite right. And then I have to navigate myself out of it later, usually. And that's probably something that, continue to learn and hopefully get better at. But like knowing that I am going to get myself out of it. So like try to avoid going into it if it's not the thing. But I feel like it's a relationship that we have to develop over time because for most of us, and for me certainly, there is a lot of programming and conditioning around what it looks
Yeah.
like to be doing life correctly. And, a lot of that is around this delayed gratification, and it was go to school, go to university, get a degree, go work really hard and do this and do that and save the money. And, one day you're going to feel really good. And so we are very disconnected when we're operating in that way. And I certainly was for most of my 20s, I think, very disconnected and pushing down all of those feelings and those intuitions and, all of what might have been or what was ultimately screaming at me that like certain things were not actually, the programming of this like sacrifice for later is so strong and it feels like so
Yeah.
much what you want to do. We've been sold that for so many of us. So it does take time to unwind that and then start to like work with that tuning fork and start trusting that when we say yes to the things that don't necessarily make sense, like the way that we were told we should be doing things, that everything's going to be okay. Like, because
Yeah.
ultimately how we feel is the only thing that really matters, like how we
Yeah.
feel. And I mean, I've experienced this, I've got an interesting story about money where I was very successful, became a multimillionaire, had multiple multi-million dollar exits, and then got a really big idea that felt like it could be $1 billion idea, and partly driven by ego, partly driven by passion, got really excited to build this tech company remotely that was going to be huge. And I had like this feeling of, I've done this, I've been successful at this sort of size of business. I want to go for the big thing and like really see what I'm made of. And in the end, it was so insane and so intense and so much pressure. And there was a lot once I started raising funds that came up within my money story and having other people's money and this pressure that it created. And then more so when I started going out to raise money from VCs, um, just the feeling of disconnection that I felt with the ultimate model of like having this funded company that's fast growth and there's all this pressure. And anyway, it all fell apart and I ended up with nothing. So, and I shouldn't say nothing. We have so much resources and prosperity and I'm fine. But I literally went from being a multimillionaire to having like a few $100 in my bank. It was the first time since I was probably 19 years old that I had what felt like no money. And it was it was so difficult and so challenging, but it did all happen for me. And something really magical happened after being like broke, I would say, like I'm in quotation marks, and I wasn't really. I had a roof over my head. I had all sorts of good things, but broke in the context of like I was not feeling financially free at all. I actually felt like this is not right. This is not my vibrational frequency. I don't belong here. And when I realized that, I was like, oh, cool. Like I'm shifting this. I'm going to be resourced and wealthy again because that's actually where I feel my natural state. And that
Yeah.
was really cool to feel. Because oftentimes for people as well, it's a way where like you might feel like, oh, my natural state is actually in this scarcity and I need to start to reprogram and change these stories. Um, but just paying attention to how I felt. And I was like, you know what? This is really uncomfortable. And this is not my frequency. Like my frequency is a leader. I have people helping me in my home space, like housekeepers and things like that. And I was actually able in those moments to shed past like I think shame, and I think I had like quite a distorted relationship with money up until then. And I had guilt for being successful and I had shame for like having cleaners and housekeepers and paying people to do things for me. And um, I think some of that guilt and shame played into what ended up happening. And I do see that all of it happened for me to alchemize even further my relationship with money, where I'm now on a rebuilding journey and I'm having a lot of fun because I've taken my power back from those months where I felt a bit powerless. I felt very defeated. I felt very, I lost a lot of confidence for a short
Mm.
time. And then I was just like, yeah, actually, you know what? I'm not going to hang out here. Like, I'm going to move back into that vibrational frequency of someone who is well resourced. And it's happening. Um, and I'm like really excited to share that journey with people as I go as well, because I also came from like the more financial planning background with the managed funds, and some of the like the way my assets were structured was kind of like a bit more in that direction. And I'm really building wealth in a completely different way now through real estate investing mostly. And I absolutely love it. And then also like my businesses and probably some crypto stuff along the way. But all of it's really tapping into like how I actually feel about these assets and how they light me up and how they excite me. um, I was one other thing that I want to say just on this train of thought, because I was thinking about the whole like hard work and hustle thing and everything. And I've been burnt out so many times in my career because of that story. And the thing that I've really started to understand now as well is that like we don't get burnt out working hard on something that absolutely lights us up. Like
Yeah.
that is the stewarding of energy, because it actually
Yeah.
creates more energy. And also if we're in touch with it, we might have a big day, but then we'll go rest because we need to rest because it was a late night or whatever. But like it's totally different to how quickly how rapidly and how horribly we can burn out when we're doing something that we don't like. And also, the story that we tell ourselves while we're doing it is
Yeah.
often it's not taking that many hours. Like like we have these reasons why we convince ourselves that it's okay that we keep thing that we fucking hate doing because we feel
It's
obligated or
unbelievable.
something.
But I
But it's
think
like
it's
that thing
because
is burning us out.
yeah, it's so funny because in yoga, like my teacher used to say, the ego has rational lies. So we talk about rationalize. We rationalize why what we're doing is the reason is what we have to be doing. When really there's so much in what you just said. Like we could spend a long time to unpack all of that, but it doesn't. What I think I would summate that in is that it doesn't matter what your story is or how much money you have. You are here to discover who you really are and evolve and continue to evolve and grow. And it doesn't matter what level that's at, whether it's $1 billion company collapsing or whether it's $1 million company selling, like there, or whether you're just struggling to make ends meet and just find a job that suits you or find a wealth building strategy that suits you. But I think it's for me, in terms of that journey, is all about overcoming my fear of being seen. Like that's been my biggest barrier to all of the things because it shows up in stepping back when really my heart wants to step forward. And so, it's like holding back when you really know that once you step out, it's scary. It is scary to go and do something that you might not think is the should, like, and people around you. I think that's one of the things for me as well is you need to find people that are your cheerleader no matter what, because when you're stepping on the path of your heart, there will always be people to tell you why it won't work, what will go wrong, why it's not you, or that's not you, like because they know your identity to be a certain way. And when you don't fit that mold anymore, it's going to ruffle some feathers. And so it's like you have to start to really listen to what's in your heart, but then know that it's not going to be comfortable, which is what you said. Like, and that
Mhm.
when you're charged up, there is a different energy because things, there is a different energy when you're on the path, when you're on that flow and into the right space. But it's not going to be
Yeah.
it's not going to be easy. I think it's simple. No, it's, what do they say? It's like it's simple to follow the path like where you're at, but it's not easy because it's not going to feel easy because your identity and who you are and all the ideas that you have about yourself are not are wanting to keep you the same because that's the security blanket.
Mhm.
And so when you're stepping out, it's going to feel really scary until you can trust yourself that it is all working out, until you build that when you actually come into that place of no matter what, like coming onto this podcast, doing a podcast itself, like it's like, you know what, no matter what, it's all working out. It is, this is where you need to be. This is the step that you need to take, and trusting that, it is the way that it's meant to be. Like that's where the energy shifts in some of the decisions that you make. And like you say, like
Mhm.
we have guilt and shame about being wealthy as much as we do about being unwealthy. Like there's a lot of stress and
And
fear in
that's the
success.
freedom that we want to
The freedom
find, is
is no
freedom
matter
from that,
what,
you know?
freedom from
Yeah.
everything. Like, but a lot of the times we're afraid of success as much as we are afraid of failure.
Yeah.
And
100%.
like it's anything that holds you back from taking that step. It doesn't matter which way it is. It's that, we need to let that go.
Well, I'm so excited about being on this journey with you. Like, when you first approached me to, support you with sort of financial fitness thing, I was like excited for you and excited to I always enjoy flexing my entrepreneurial muscles. So it was like, yeah, absolutely. But I wasn't really excited about the thing you were bringing. I was just like, that's cool. Like, whatever. My days in finance are done. And that seems like a cool thing. But as we started going on the journey, we started really unraveling what this is actually meant to be. All of a sudden, like, my heart starts expanding and opening and saying like yes to soul money as well. And I
Yeah.
just feel like, wow, I never would have thought that I would be back working in something to do with money. I just thought those days were behind me. So I'm
Yeah.
like grateful to you for, providing this opportunity, because I also can see for both of us in different and unique ways, everything we've experienced with money has like been purposeful to come to this place, because we've both in our own ways and our own journeys been able to unpack all the different facets of like how our relationship with money shows up. And I always say, like, at all these different stages and levels of wealth, like, you'll get shown new things about how you feel
Yeah.
about yourself through how you feel about the resource of money. Um, so yeah, I'm just like super excited to be here on this journey with you. I'm super excited that you have said yes to like really stepping into it in this way, because I've just been seeing you like shine and evolve, and I'm seeing the gifts that were always there, like the world is ready for them. And it
Yeah.
wasn't, quite frankly, 15 years ago. Like the things that you were talking about, most of the people were just not going to be able to conceptualize and get their head around and be able to engage with in any meaningful way. Whereas now you're actually able to talk to people who are, you know, very much potentially in the material world, but they are ready, they are open, and they are also in the spiritual world, and they're connecting and integrating that as well. And that's exactly what you're here to do. So I'm super excited. Tell us what to expect from the podcast moving forward. Obviously, Soul Money is a course and community, philosophies, and get in there and surround yourself with people like-minded, and you'll find out more and more about that. But what can people expect here on Money with Soul?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing we're going to do on the podcast is really open the conversation up about soul money. So what that looks like and how that, and we'll talk to get different people in this space that are doing really cool and interesting things. But it really will just explore some of these principles and concepts about living a life with intention and living a life led from heart, and anchoring back into that stewardness instead of that control. So how you do that, and some topics will be a little bit meaty with that sort of stuff. Some things will be a little bit philosophical. We'll just see how it lands. But yeah, really just opening that conversation up around prosperity, intentional living, money with heart, and how do we align ourselves into that decision-making model that really helps us anchor into a place of fulfillment rather than happiness. Because let's be honest, like happiness is an object. I think it's anchored into that old world paradigm. Fulfillment is a feeling, and that's what we want to really bring into our life, and that sense of freedom. Yeah, I think it's going to be really cool. But at the minute, it's really just about starting the conversation. And so, thank you for coming on
Well,
today. Yeah, I really
yeah,
appreciate that. And yeah,
I'm so excited to be here and to listen to the future episodes where obviously you're going to be hosting. And I appreciate you letting me just kind of come on, have some fun, and interview you a little bit. I'm also, you know, a very, I tend to be like a pretty open book, and I want to like share my journey with people as we go. So I'll probably come on the show every like couple months or so, like whatever feels good, and just share where I'm at. Because it was actually right at my genesis point where I had decided that I was going to rebuild that you asked me to do this. So it's very interesting, all these little
yeah,
timelines. But in October of 2024, I basically was like, all right, I am going to start rebuilding. Like I didn't have a lot of resources, and I was like, I'm ready to go again. Like I was recovering from the burnout of what had happened with remotely. I'd been in that like broke space for like 8 months, and I was like, I'm
yeah,
done. I'm done here. I'm like, I got the memo, I'm out. And that was almost not quite a year ago, 10 months ago. And since then, I have launched about 5 or 6 businesses, and they're all in early stage, but I'm producing income every single month, and I'm now paying myself about three or so $1,000 US a month, which is really nice. I'm fortunate in that I don't have a mortgage or anything. So $3,000 is actually really great for me right now, but it's not a lot, but it's good for now. And, you know, I have my goals of where I want to get that to be. But I also went into real estate investing, and I am freaking obsessed. Like, I love it. I think I might be better at real estate investing than I've ever been at anything in my life. You guys will get to hear, but I wanted to share exciting news because ever since I decided in October last year that I was ready to start going on this journey, I started doing my monthly, what I was calling a prosperity reflection session. And obviously, this is some of the things that Ammie teaches in Soul Money. But I started tending to my money every single month. And I did not do it during the period where I've been doing it for years. I've been doing it for 15 years, but I stopped doing it in that period that I went broke. So there is a correlation there. But
Absolutely.
I started doing it again. Yeah, I started doing it again, and every single month I've been tending to my money and spending a whole day on my money every month and updating my balance sheet and seeing where I'm going. And this most recent month, I added $70,000 to my balance sheet from the first real estate deal that I did that has just been appraised and refinanced. So that was like such a huge win to just be like, holy shit, I've got myself from like basically zero to now over, it's actually a bit over 70,000 because I have some other little save, but yeah, around $70,000. And I'm like,
I
okay,
love
we're
it.
fucking back, ladies and
That's
gentlemen.
it. No,
So
I
y'all are
think
going to
it's
get to
so
hear
cool to share the
firsthand how the
stories.
journey goes.
Yeah, look, and I think we want to share that. We want to share where we're at, what we're doing, and and I'll definitely share some of the things that we're doing in my life. And because you're in the States, just for people that may not know, we're in
Mhm.
Australia. I'm in Australia. But I think one of the things is, like that is this power of actually I think the big thing I think with soul money that is different is that it is actually about money. And I think it's not, I really feel as though it's exciting to build wealth and to have that energy of money and do things that feel aligned and that you can make decisions for your life instead of just trying to make decisions to survive. And we will go into a little bit
Yeah.
of that energy of survival and the energy of creation. And the thing is, you cannot create when you're in survival. Like you cannot do it. And, and it's what you're talking about when you were in that place, like you were surviving. You didn't know where you were. You didn't know what your identity was anymore. You felt really guilty about what had happened. And there was a lot of stuff that you had to process. But when we show up for where we are at, there is that decision that you have to make, that inner decision of showing up and being there and being and owning and taking full responsibility for where you're at. But it's not about saying we're just going to avoid the money and the wealth and the prosperity that comes when we align, and that you can have both. And I think that's what is really, really cool about what's happened for both of us is we have that feeling of freedom, very different situations, living all of those things, but we have that freedom that comes from owning and taking sovereignty over ourselves and our lives. And that's what we want to share on this podcast. So no, really cool. We should wrap it up because it's
Yeah.
definitely longer than I
Thank
thought
you so
we would go.
much. No, it's perfect. Thank you so much for everything you're doing. And I'm so excited for the official launch of this podcast and of Soul Money.